The story begins on December 23rd in the city of Los Angeles, where an angel named Michael is seen falling from the sky. With his body covered in blood, Michael takes off his clothes, pulls out a knife, and cuts off both of his wings. From there, Michael then goes to a warehouse to treat his wounds. After finishing, he passes through to a room filled with weapons. Not long after, two police officers who happen to be on patrol witness a huge explosion from one of the stores. Seeing someone coming out of the store, the two officers then point their guns at Michael and order him to drop the bag he's holding. In the midst of this situation, one of the officers hears several emergency calls over the radio, and Michael, who also hears them, says something that confuses the officers. He says, "It has all begun."
Started.
Hands on your head. Shut the
After managing to take down one of the officers, the other officer suddenly becomes possessed. The officer's eyes start to widen and turn black, accompanied by his teeth appearing sharp. He starts speaking in a hoarse voice, telling Michael that he has disobeyed orders. Michael, upon hearing this, replies that he is only following his own orders. Meanwhile, on the edge of the Mojave Desert, a young man named Jeep wakes up from a nightmare. Jeep lives with his partner, Charlie, who is pregnant. By the way, the child Charlie is carrying is not Jeep's. However, in order to save Charlie from shame, Jeep is willing to help raise the child. Now, Jeep works at his father's restaurant, whose name is Bob. Meanwhile, Charlie also works there as a waitress, along with a cook named Percy. Today, the restaurant isn't very busy, with only one family present whose car is being repaired by Jeep. This family consists of a young woman named Audrey, her father Howard, and her mother Sandra, who is currently complaining about Audrey's outfit being too revealing. Meanwhile, a young man named Kylie, who is on a journey, decides to stop by the restaurant to ask for directions to his destination. When he arrives, he meets Charlie and then asks her for directions. It turns out that Kylie has strayed far from his intended route. Feeling exhausted after a long trip, he decides to have lunch at the restaurant while trying to borrow a phone. A little while later, Howard asked Bob about their car, which should have already been fixed. Curious, Bob went to check, only to discover that Jeep hadn't repaired the car at all. Instead, he was busy building and polishing a baby crib for his son Charlie. An argument broke out between father and son, but here Jeep emphasized that everything he was doing was because of the nightmare that had happened to Charlie. Jeep didn't want that nightmare to come true. That's why he was willing to take care of Charlie and his child, to provide them with a sense of security. When Bob returned to the restaurant, he found that all signals, including the television broadcast, had disappeared. Feeling anxious, Percy then tried to find out what was happening through the radio broadcast. Unfortunately, none of their communication devices could be used. Amidst this situation, an old woman entered the restaurant wearing a strange smile. While ordering food, the old woman started a conversation with Charlie, who was serving her. After her order was taken, the old woman began chatting casually with Sandra, who was sitting across from her. However, the atmosphere suddenly changed when Charlie brought her food, as the old woman said that the baby Charlie was carrying would soon die. Hearing what the old woman said, everyone in the restaurant became confused and panicked. Sandra, who saw how the old woman devoured her food, tried to reprimand her, but unfortunately, Sandra's actions only made the old woman angry, and she responded by insulting Sandra.
What? Why don't you apologize for my wife?
You will never save her.
Fortunately, the old woman was taken down by Kylie, who quickly drew her pistol while Jeep hesitated to open fire. After the incident, the injured Howard was taken by Kylie and several others to seek help in the nearest town. But on the way, their vehicle had to stop when they discovered that the road ahead was blocked by a swarm of insects that looked like a cloud. Since they couldn't get out of the area, Kylie and the others were forced to return to the restaurant. Bob, who greeted them, also had to hide his confusion after seeing a swarm of flying insects right above the restaurant. From there, everyone then decided to take the old woman's corpse and dispose of it outside. However, as they were doing so, they saw a police car approaching from a distance. Feeling suspicious, Bob immediately pointed his weapon. Once the man got out, he introduced himself as Michael, and since it seemed safe, Bob then explained the reason behind his actions. Realizing that Bob and the others had no idea what was going on, Michael quickly snatched the weapon from Bob's hand while explaining that there would soon be more people like the old woman arriving at this place. After that, Michael returned the rifle to Bob and handed out all the weapons he had previously taken, including to Charlie, whom he warned not to do anything foolish. Even though they still didn't know what was really happening, they all began to secure the entrance. Then, as night fell, the power suddenly went out. After that, Michael led several people up to the roof to get a better vantage point. Not long after, an ice cream truck approached the restaurant. When the truck arrived, a tall man got out and revealed a terrifying appearance.
Ocean, get ready.
After taking down that figure, they then saw more cars arriving from two different directions. Michael quickly ordered the others to start shooting, while informing them that their target was no longer human. In the midst of the chaos, one of the attackers managed to break in through the window and began dragging Howard out. Sandra, Audrey, and Charlie tried to help, which almost resulted in Charlie getting caught. But fortunately, Michael quickly stepped in and saved Charlie. Amid the panic, Michael then explained to Sandra that her husband Howard was already dead, and he also scolded Charlie for his actions that nearly cost him his life. So after the situation began to calm down, Bob tried to demand an explanation for what had just happened. Michael then told them everything, essentially saying that this is now the apocalypse, where God is angry and has ordered the destruction of humanity. He explained that the attackers they fought were just people who had been possessed by angels, something very unusual because according to Percy, he had never heard of angels doing such a thing. So after hearing everything, Jeep then asked how Michael knew about all of this. Michael then replied that before he decided to come down to Earth, he was also on the side of the angels. Even though it sounded unbelievable, Michael then said that his purpose in coming here was to protect Charlie and her baby because it turned out that the child she was carrying was humanity's only hope for survival. Michael didn't care what they believed because the fact was that the attackers outside were desperate to kill the baby inside Charlie's womb, adding that something far more terrifying was on its way here. Next, while everyone was busy with their own tasks, Jeep, who was with Michael, tried to ask him about his origins. Michael said that he used to be a general in the army of angels. He decided to defy God when he learned that God himself had given him an order he could not believe in because even though the world was filled with hatred and darkness, Michael still saw a glimmer of hope in people who refuse to give up and surrender. People who also do not give up in facing their lives. Among them are people like Jay. The next morning, while everyone was still asleep, Sandra woke up because she heard a voice calling her name. When she checked, it turned out to be coming from her husband Howard, who was tied up in an upside-down position. Kylie, Audrey, and Percy, who heard the commotion, then tried to restrain Sandra. But unfortunately, Sandra managed to get out, leaving Percy behind her. Severely wounded, Percy managed to carry Sandra back into the restaurant before he finally died and collapsed to the floor, his back burned and destroyed. As a result of the incident, Sandra was forced to be tied to a chair, while Audrey helped Kylie search for emergency broadcasts on the radio. Audrey managed to find a specific frequency broadcasting urgent news about several distinct groups of people actively fighting against those who had been tragically possessed. There was a brief heated argument when some of them desperately wanted to go to the precise location of the survivors, but Michael wisely reminded them that they absolutely couldn't take such a significant risk as it would only make Charlie an incredibly easy target for their adversaries. Realizing her helplessness, a saddened Charlie then talks to Jeep, where she recalls the moments when she almost decided to terminate her pregnancy. Next at night, the lights in the restaurant are back on, and a car arrives driven by a father and his son who intend to fill up with gas. Unfortunately, those creatures then appear and run over the father.
Get back in your car!
Seeing the little child down below, Kylie quickly jumped down to help him. But unfortunately, the child she tried to help had actually been possessed from the start, and he left Kylie dying by biting her neck. Audrey also went down to help Kylie, but luckily, just as she ran out of bullets, Charlie decided to come and get Audrey.
Open the door.
After successfully bringing Audrey, the demon child, back, she now starts to break into the restaurant and tries to attack Charlie. The atmosphere becomes tense as the restaurant lights go out again. Amidst the tension, unexpectedly, Charlie starts having contractions, and now it looks like she's about to give birth. Not long after, they hear a very loud trumpet sound coming from the sky above. Jip and Bob, curious about what's happening, go up to the roof to see what's really going on. Meanwhile, Michael and Audrey try to help Charlie deliver her baby. In short, the sound of a baby's cry now echoes through the silence, causing everyone who is possessed to appear to be in pain. From there, the trumpet sounds again, and then a winged being descends from the sky. Michael says that the figure coming down is the angel Gabriel, whose purpose is to complete the mission that was originally given to Michael to prevent the child from being born into the world. However, even so, the future has now been decided, where humanity can start everything over again. In the midst of this situation, the baby in Audrey's arms is suddenly snatched away by Sandra, who has managed to break free. It turns out Sandra intends to hand the baby over to the possessed people so that they can be saved. But before she can do that,
It's just one baby.
in that incident, Bob was killed after being struck by a slash from Gabriel's wing. Michael, who didn't want anything to happen to the baby, stopped Jeep, who wanted to check on his father's condition. Michael told Jeep, Charlie, and Audrey to leave immediately and take their baby to a safe place. From there, Jeep, Audrey, and Charlie slowly walked out toward Michael's police car, passing by all the possessed people who now seemed to stop and let them through. Meanwhile, inside, Gabriel was shocked when he saw Michael without wings and called him a rebel, saying that all of Michael's acts of disobedience deserved the harshest punishment. A fight then broke out between the two of them. Michael used his weapon to shoot at Gabriel, but since Michael was no longer a true angel, Gabriel eventually managed to defeat him.
That's enough.
From there, Gabriel, who intended to leave, was shocked when he discovered that Bob was actually still alive, and now Bob is trying to trap him and plans to blow up this place. Meanwhile, Charlie and Audrey, who thought they were safe, were suddenly startled by Gabriel's arrival as he landed on top of the vehicle. In this critical situation, Jeep decided to increase the speed. When Gabriel tried to snatch the baby quickly, Jeep slammed on the brakes, causing Gabriel to be thrown off while their vehicle crashed and was violently tossed. In that incident, Audrey lost her life, while Jeep and Charlie, along with the baby, managed to survive. From there, they tried to head toward a hill, but just as they reached the top, Gabriel appeared again and tried to take the baby. A brief fight broke out as Jeep desperately protected Charlie, which ended up causing both him and Gabriel to fall off the cliff. Just as Gabriel managed to corner Jeep, Michael suddenly appeared and saved Jeep. Gabriel, seeing this, could hardly believe it, because how could Michael, who had defied God's orders, appear again as an angel? Michael explained that it was true Gabriel had always tried to give God what he asked for, but in the end, that only disappointed God. Meanwhile, it turned out that Michael gave God what he truly needed, which was to save humanity from destruction, even if it was just through a single baby. A fight then broke out, and this time Gabriel was no match for Michael.
Do it. Do it! No.
Would not have shown you such mercy.
That's why you failed him.
After Gabriel was defeated and left, Michael, who was about to help him up, then told Jeep that he was now a true protector and asked him to remain steadfast in his beliefs. From there, Jeep and Charlie unexpectedly discovered a surviving settlement, which could become the foundation for rekindling humanity's last hope for survival. That was the plot summary of the film Legend, which was released in 2010. I've wanted to cover this film for a long time, but only got around to it now. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. So thank you to everyone who watched. I'm Pangil signing off, and see you again in the next video. You're all awesome. Ciao. Ciao.